Hello chess friends and welcome to Azarov's chess channel and welcome to my Basics in Chess series. So in this series we see opening principles, middle game strategies and middle game plannings and of course the endgame strategies. Today we are continuing with this middle game strategies with the recognition of the common pawn structures, and we are doing again this Boleslavsky wall from white's perspective. Let's now remind us again this Boleslavsky wall setup. It's the most important pawns here are on c6 and d6. So this is sort of a setup after the trade of the e5 pawn for the d4 pawn, and black continues here the game with this very weak d6 pawn, which could be a problem in long terms, but there are ideas for black also to create majority attack here with the pawns on with moves as b5, pawn breakthroughs like d5 and f5 possibilities, maybe with some f4 moves after that, and of course here I set you up a position. Here we have also this knight outpost on c5, which is the common setup in this Boleslavsky wall with this a5 blocking system here by black. And today we do another strategical idea against this Boleslavsky wall. We already did this kingside attack and this exploiting the weakness on d6. So today we'll do this minority attack against this Boleslavsky wall, which is also an important strategical idea against this black's common pawn setup here in the center. And the instructive game that I wanted to show you in this setup is a game between Alexander Vojtkiewicz against Yuri Markovich Shulman. Alexander Vojtkiewicz, also a very strong grandmaster, and here we have the possibility in this position to create this minority attack on the queen side, because as you can see we have the pawn majority on the king side, but a potential f4 f5 idea is not so strong. e5 is also not possible because black has taken here this very important diagonal. So here we can create a minority attack with b4 and attack the knight and create some tempos on the queen side. Meanwhile, while we create this minority attack, it's not the idea to gain a pawn or maybe gain some pieces. It's really the idea to get some weak squares or weak pawns after our minority attack. So here Vojtkiewicz played the move b4. We have 8x b4, 8x b4. Now we have a knight on a6 and now b5. So here comes a knight on b4, we have queen on b3 and now c5. Knight on e2, and again while we have created this minority attack, meanwhile we created again this very important d6 weakness and also a very important d5 square weakness. So now we can simply play onto these weaknesses, but that was all possible because we created this minority attack, and it was well placed in this particular moment. Vojtkiewicz really understood the position because this knight on c5 was very well placed. And now let's see the continuation, how Vojtkiewicz managed to win the game against these weaknesses on d5 and d6. f5, we have rook on d2, knight on f6, now rook on d1. You see, we're simply playing onto this weakness. If you try maybe f takes e4, then of course we'll simply take, and after a trade of rooks on d6, this will be also weak pawn in long terms. You see, we have also this c5 weakness, and if you try b6, then of course it's not possible because the rook has occupied already this sixth rank. So that's why queen on f8 was played. You see, the queen is now used only as a defensive piece, which is always bad in a very complex middle game. You want your queen to be active, of course. Now we have e takes f5, bishop takes f5, and now g4. Again, you see, I've explained it in my couple of examples before. We first used here this pawn minority, but now we simply are playing on this pawn majority. Now we have this situation again. We have 3 on 2. and now we can simply push the pawns here. Meanwhile, it's really hard for black to improve the position with the move d5, because this is really a backward pawn, and it's really a strategical weakness here. So bishop on e4, we have knight on f4, bishop takes on g2, king takes on g2, g5. And okay, we could have here maybe occupy this very nice d5 square, but here Wojtkiewicz finds a very nice knight maneuver. He plays knight on e2 first, queen on e7, knight on g3, and now after queen on e5 we have a very nice outpost here on f5. This knight is really hard to challenge, and I hope you realize it's now the position that this b4, although it's fixed here on the 4th rank, it's really again aiming into nothing. It's really not useful here on this b4 square. It's not something that white has to bother about, and here you see we are simply playing on this weaknesses now around black's king. We have now this very weak f5 square, and of course this d5 weakness still is present in this game. So here bishop on f8 was played. Now f3, which is also a very good move. It really improves here the pawn structure around white's king. So meanwhile the king is secured, this knight is protected by the pawn, and the knight is also protecting the bishop. So very good coordination by white's pieces. We have occupied really this d file. Basically what we want to do is maybe to improve the position of the queen, because all of the other pieces are really on good squares, and we have simply only to search here for the improvement of the queen. So b6, now bishop on g1 was played, queen on e6, now bishop on h2. Now you see this d6 is now unprotectable anymore. Here king on g8, now bishop takes on d6, now knight on h5. Of course the idea is if we take then black can take this knight on f5, and we would then have a weakened pawn structure with h5, h3, and f3. This is of course not what white wanted here. Here knight on e4 was played, also very strong move. Bishop takes on d6, now rook takes on d6 with an attack on the queen. Now knight on f4 with a check, king on f1, rook on d6, but now rook on d6 again with the tempo on the queen, queen on e5, and now queen on d1. The queen comes now very good into the game, because we have now the connection on the d file with the rook, and these two knights are really dancing now around black's king already, and this is now a dangerous position for black's king. Knight on e6, we have rook on d7, king on h8, and now we take a simple another pawn. Knight takes on h6. Here the threat is of course knight on f7, queen on h2, knight on f7 with a check. Now Wojtkiewicz simply took out this other pawn on g5, king on g6 was placed, and now knight takes on e6, queen takes on h3, but now king on g1, black cannot check white's king anymore. Rook takes on e6, queen on b1, queen on h6, and now knight on d6, and in this position black resigned, and this is really hopeless here for black. So let's see really this important moment in this game after queen on h8. Here as you can see we have the situation, this 3 on 4, and I've explained in my basics in chess series this potential minority attack as a strategical moment in the middle game, and it's really important to realize that we can gain some tempos here. Here b4, a takes b4, a takes b4, now knight on a6, and now b5 we get another tempo. You see knight on b4. So you see knight on knight on c7 is not so good. It's again this knight is on an inactive square. Knight on b4 was played, now queen on b3, and now we are simply waiting black to fix here the position with moves c5, but now the problems are this d6. You saw that Wojtkiewicz with some improvement of the pieces of the position of the pieces could simply, after a couple moves, to really take out this d6 pawn, and we had also always this d5 weakness. So as I said, here the minority attack I think was the right strategical element played by Wojtkiewicz. With this minority attack we created more weaknesses in our opponent's camp, and that's how you should play a very nice middle game. Okay, I hope you realize these ideas of this minority attack against this Boleslavsky wall. Now we are continuing the Boleslavsky wall from black's perspective. You will see Black's ideas how you should play with this while having this Boleslavsky wall, and of course we will see also then again from White's perspective what are White's ideas and how you should continue in complex middle games. Okay, meanwhile you can watch my other basics in chess series videos, and you can also watch my chess tactics and chess puzzles videos if you want to have a better knowledge about all of the possible tactical motifs that can happen in a chess game. And you can also subscribe to my channel. Thanks you for watching, guys, and chess is the best, of course.